Judge, you might think that if it was so wonderful, that the government members would like to use the entire time available to them, especially the chair of the Finance and Expenditure Committee. I would have thought that he, of all of them, given how rowdy they were today during the budget speech, here in the very first bill that arises from that budget, would actually spend the time available to talk about how good it was. And I think the reason that they haven't, Madam Speaker, is because deep down they know it's actually not that great. And deep down they know that it actually doesn't deliver what they promised. This bill doesn't meet up to the promises that the government has made. And it actually doesn't. They clearly don't know the numbers, because Stuart Smith has just yelled out some numbers as part of his 2-minute speech that were inaccurate. They weren't right. They did not match what the Finance Minister said. When you've got the chair of the Finance and Expenditure Committee doesn't actually know what's in the bill, standing up and saying the numbers, I think that says a lot, Madam Speaker. At the end of the day, this bill takes away from New Zealanders. Because if we just actually dive into the detail, the question has to be asked, what cost is coming with the tax cuts that this bill is bringing? And for the many, many people in this country that are renting, the 2, the 4, the 6 or whatever they get is going to be swallowed up almost immediately by the increase in rents that the budget, of which these changes are part of, are bringing in. It's in their own documentation, Madam Speaker. It says very clearly that the $2.9 billion tax cut that this government is giving landlords by reintroducing interest deductibility, by scrapping the Bright Line test and scrapping initiatives like emergency housing and transitional housing and maintenance on Kāinga Ora homes, all of which is in the budget, and scrapping the first home grant, it all adds up to one thing: higher rents. And when we know that the growing proportion of renters amongst the over 65s, when they look at this budget and they hear the government members crow, and many of them have huge proportions amongst their constituents over 65, and they look at this and they see that they're getting $2.15, and then if they rent, they're soon going to get a rent increase significantly higher than that. What are they? Oh, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Let's just say whatever to facts, Madam Speaker. Let's say whatever to their own documents. It's in your own documents. I tell you what, go back to Hamilton and invite the over 65s to come to your electorate office. And when they come to you and they say, I've only got $2 a week out of this, but my rent's gone $20, will you say whatever then? Will you say whatever to their face? I bet you don't. I bet you don't have the guts. You'll say it quietly off to the side, Madam Speaker, but he won't look his constituents in the eye and say what he's going to say here in the hope that no one hears. But we did hear, because that is the attitude of this government. They don't care. When they are presented with the damage that this bill is actually going to do to working people and to retired people, their reaction is whatever. They don't care. They do not give a jot. And this is supposedly a government made up by a party that was formed to look after old people. That's right. New Zealand First is supposed to look after old people. And with possible exception of Mark Patterson, who is a friend of mine, and so I'm not going to pick on him, but I'll pick on the rest of them, they don't court the old people vote now. It's almost like, Madam Speaker, that unless they're wearing tinfoil, Winnie don't care. That's their constituency now. They're after the cookers, and they've forgotten about the old people, and this budget sums it up. It's not just the old people, though, Madam Speaker, because of course, the average wage means that there are many people in this country earning underneath that. And they don't get the figures that the finance spokesperson talked about in this budget. They get bugger all. And that is not fair. That is not fair when people like me, in fact, every member of Parliament, is walking away with $80 a fortnight that we don't need. I don't need $40 a week. I don't need it. And here we are arguing that this is supposed to be helping those that need it, and yet those that don't need it are benefiting the most. And that is a choice that this government made. And it just goes to show what their priorities are. So when New Zealanders look at this bill and they look at what they're supposedly getting, look at what the government's also taking away.